This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, more security, more security.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that won't hurt you unless you're trying to hurt us first. I'm Gepwin, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Isix.
Hi.
And this week we have the surprisingly well done sort of PTSD episode.
Indeed.
I only say sort of because it doesn't map one-to-one, which is one of the interesting things about it.
Sure. I guess it's the give someone intentionally PTSD, and then it's different because sci-fi.
And so we'll talk about some of the things that they do with this later. But yeah, it is different because sci-fi. But
yes,
it's very interesting. It's well done.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. You'll find out about that soon.
Soon,
when we're done joking around and get serious.
Serious, like a serious wait, we're not on that. Never mind.
So this episode is The Hunted.
So are we going on like a Bambi hunt here?
Yeah, it's like going on a safari.
So we're going to be collecting ourselves all sorts of horrific trophies of various animals, and it's going to be real tragic, right?
Yes, we're hunting the most dangerous game.
Boggle?
Yeah.
I actually read that story, The Most Dangerous Game. It was kind of predictable.
Yeah, because it was like, incredibly influential.
Mm-hmm.
It's that old problem of everything copied it, so now it doesn't seem original.
True. But, there's somebody who's getting hunted and it's a person, just so you know, in case you, for some reason, haven't been exposed to this particular trope.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have either seen it or one of the 10,000 parodies / homages. So you would definitely know it. I had to read it in school like 4 times.
Four times? I only had to do it once.
It was for different classes. Yeah. So I was like, here's a cool, cool thing. It's the most dangerous game. That seems like neat. It's neat and slightly edgy, but it's old enough that it's not going to be too much of a problem.
Yes. It's not going to cause too many parents groups to show up. It's like, you're teaching our kids to hunt each other? What? No, we're trying to discourage that behavior.
It's okay.
Actually.
It's classic literature. Don't worry about it.
I wonder when something I write will become classic literature.
Long after you're dead.
But I plan to live forever.
Well, that's a problem then.
Yes.
Nowadays, you either have to be a Nepo baby or you die and someone finds an unfinished manuscript in your garage and goes like, hey, I can publish this and not have to do any work.
I don't know.
Or pay people.
Yeah, I'm going to be competing against a lot of crap AI stories for the time being. So I'll have to make sure not to mysteriously disappear under strange circumstance for, at least a century, I think.
Yeah. Have you considered publishing it as an AI-written story? And then people are like, oh my God, this is so good. Look at how far AI has advanced.
That would be kind of a funny thing to do. I have to get this idea of it. Maybe I'll write a story about that. Anyway, back to the episode.
Yeah, AI doesn't exist, but it's the only way for people to get traction in the art world.
That's so sad.
So this episode was written by Robin Bernheim, who we have talked about before because she did several 80s episodes. She's also done a lot of 80s TV. She did Crazy Like a Fox and MacGyver and Matlock. Mm-hmm. She wrote for Quantum Leap and Trek War and Extreme Ghostbusters and Men in Black, the cartoon series.
I believe also did 3 Voyager episodes. One of them which sucks. One of them is kind of echoey of this episode in some ways, and the last one's actually just a lot of fun.
I also thought it was interesting that most recently she has written 3 of those weird Netflix Christmas movies. Like Christmas Prince, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And is that Vanessa Hudgens? One of the ones with twins, like twin princesses or something.
Like the Princess Switch.
Yeah. I don't think that one, but maybe the second one. One of the ones in that series.
No, there's the Princess Switch, and the Princess Switch 3 is.
The one that would imply the Princess Switch 2.
Yes. Princess Switch switched again, which
Yeah, and also co-created 7 Hallmark movie mysteries in the Mystery 101 series. It's just the way that they do these things is just weird and interesting. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting trajectory that went on from writing this like deep exploration of wartime and the way that we use people as disposable objects to the Christmas Switch switched again.
Well, sometimes you get the dark stuff out of your system, and you're just like, I want something light and fluffy here.
Either that, or the Christmas Prince has a much darker backstory than I imagined.
Well, that's a possibility. It's not really the sort of thing I'd go out of my way to watch. So, let's go with that fan theory.
As I understand it, there's some sort of political intrigue going on in the background of that series involving a neighboring country. So, you never know.
So clearly, there's going to be an assassination plot, and a bunch of random side characters you like are going to die in order to prove that things are serious.
Yeah.
Yes. Often in horrific ways.
And now we have guest stars. There are a lot of people running around at certain points, background people, but there's only 2 major, characters you talk to a lot.
Yes.
So we have Jeffrey McCarthy is playing Roga Danar.
Roga Danar is a
We are
man
squarely in Star Wars character names at this point.
Yes. He's been in a good number of things, from Law and Order, some sort of SVU, to Matlock, to
LA Law and Order, Matlock,
yes.
all of the things. Also,
Hunter.
What is this? Freddy's Nightmares and Cheers. Yeah. Didn't we talk about Freddy's Nightmares like last episode?
I
seem to remember this coming up. I seem to remember this coming up at some point.
Yes. That was also a voice in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Mm-hmm. Also, I just love it. In 95, he became the new voice of Michigan J. Frog.
Animaniacs. Excellent. Went on to reprise that role a couple times, at least.
Yeah. And also, we have James Cromwell as Prime Minister Narok. They always just call him Prime Minister.
Yes.
He's a well-known character actor who's been in a lot of movies, including Babe, Deep Impact, 6 Feet Under, Boardwalk Empire, etc. Also, Zephyrin Cochran in a little movie called First Contact.
Yeah. It has something to do with warp drive and some sort of trek through the stars, I think.
Yeah. I do think this episode really shows you how much character work a mustache can do.
Yes. It's a powerful and intriguing thing on his face there.
Yeah, he's got a whole different look.
Yeah, he's been acting since the 70s with the Rockford Files. Looks like it's the earliest role. Keeps going. And he was also in like iRobot, right? As the
it's
third
like a
scientist.
hologram.
You know what you have to do. The Young Pope! Counterpart. Did you ever see Counterpart?
No, I did not ever see Counterpart.
I'd recommend checking it out, but it does suffer from the we make seasons really short problem in terms of the writing. It's like, suddenly we need to wrap everything up in 2 episodes. Whoops.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
It's one of those like twin things. Counterpart sounds like it's something with twins or doppelgangers.
Well, sort of. There's someone opens up a mysterious portal to a exact copy of our universe.
Oh, well, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah. And
then you can make your clone go to work for you. But then, they also don't want to go to work. Wait a minute.
Well, there's also, that's also, at that moment, there's a point of divergence from the two universes, they were exactly the same at the start, but over time they slowly evolve in different directions as, due to the slight interaction between them.
Okay, that makes sense. One becomes the exploited universe.
There's a plague in one universe while not in the other, and they're also doing their best to make sure that that they're not basically sharing more than they want between the two. So if there's a technology that's advanced on one side, they want to make sure they're getting something in return if they share it with the other.
Ah, right. International politics, but interdimensionally.
Yep.
All right, fun.
Also, there's murder plots and other stuff and spies and all sorts of other things going on there. Anyway, Star Trek.
All right, I guess, yeah. We've got Star Treks.
Hey, Cole Meany's in this one.
Yeah. He gets to say, I can't lock on to things.
Also, more security.
Yeah, he gets to, shoot somebody.
He doesn't do that very often. Yeah.
No, he doesn't get to shoot people very often. Okay, I guess we have a, story that we could be getting along with.
Yar.
So the Enterprise has been sent to Angosia 3, which is a planet that is interested in Federation membership. The Prime Minister is showing them around what appears to be an ideal planet, even though they have been recovering from the Tarnesian War, that I guess it wrapped up very recently.
Yeah, so I guess this is one of the cases of random planet that these might be humans, but you're not sure sort of situation, because, the only distinguishing feature on the Prime Minister is that mustache.
Yeah.
But, these other folks that they're fighting, who knows who they are, so.
Yeah, we never know anything about them, actually.
Yes.
Just some other enemy. They just had a war. That's the important bit.
Yeah.
An assistant appears and informs the Prime Minister that there has been a problem. A prisoner's escaped from a maximum security facility on one of their moons, killing 3 guards and stealing a ship. Since they are not equipped to handle situations like this, which, why not? You have a moon colony prison. You maybe should be prepared to handle situations like this.
Yeah, and if you were just
even a little,
a major interplanetary war, you should have at least a few spaceships just kind of sitting around at this point.
Yeah,
right?
One would imagine you've suddenly demilitarized your entire space force, I guess.
Well, maybe that was part of the peace deal that everyone has to get rid of their heavy battleships after World War I sort of situation.
Oh yeah, because they're big and heavy and don't do anything but shoot stuff. So
yes.
I guess it makes sense. Riker tells Data, who is in charge of the ship today, to find the fugitive and capture him. So Data follows the ship to an asteroid that it sort of saunters behind. Mm-hmm. But then only half of it comes out again.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Did the rest of it explode?
The drive section of the ship, apparently unmanned, drifts away, and they check the other half of the ship has crashed behind the asteroid. So, oh no, something went wrong, I guess, and the guys may be dead. But wait a minute, where'd the drive section go?
Spooky.
Seems like it's changed course by itself and is gone.
Maybe there was something on there. Maybe this whoever escaped is now in a cryogenic tube and pretending not to be alive, and has set up a automated system to take the ship somewhere safe so it can thaw out later.
Yeah, tubes. Tubes are always the solution.
Tubes!
The minister calls to let them know that they have identified the prisoner as Roga Danar, with a rap sheet that's too long to go into right now. Don't worry about it. But no, He's very violent.
Mm-hmm. He'll murder all your faces.
Yeah. Without warp drive, there's no way that he could have escaped yet, so that they can find him, but they can't detect him, even though he should be right there.
Mm-hmm.
Riker goes, what if he's using the planet's magnetic pole? Which happens so frequently, they maybe should just account for that at some point. This is just the go-to move for hiding your ship from things.
Mm-hmm. In fact, Riker's, talked about doing this very thing in a previous episode. So
yeah. They find the ship and put a tractor beam on it. But Roga decides he's going to ram the Enterprise instead of being captured. But then at the last minute, he veers and bounces off the ship's shields. Data, who is now expecting misdirection, realizes that Roga used the impact to mask his launching of an escape pod. They still cannot detect any life signs, so they just beam aboard whatever is in there.
Yes. So if either he's still in the ship and it's right over there and we can go pick it up, or he's in this escape pod, and we should probably just beam up the contents. So let's guess the escape pod here.
Yeah. So they get Roga trapped mid-transport, deactivate his weapon, and then materialize him once security arrives. He is not happy. He discovers that his gun doesn't work and then just tackles them.
Mm-hmm. And a big old brawl breaks out. It's like original series all over again.
Yeah, which I just think is interesting because they all have guns trained on him.
Mm-hmm.
And they just cannot account for the fact that he doesn't go like, oh, my gun doesn't work. I guess I surrender.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, gun doesn't work. Run at them. They're like, oh shit, what we do? I mean, to be fair, they do shoot him, and it does nothing.
Yeah, it just makes him mad.
Yeah. Like, don't shoot him. It makes him angry. He takes several phaser hits. Seems to be stronger than 2 of the guards put together. He takes 3 of them out easily. Also, O'Brien is there.
Mm-hmm. O'Brien's like, I'm done with fighting like actual bad guys in a combat situation. Help!
I mean, he's the most reasonable one. He's like, oh fuck, new people, more people.
Mm-hmm. And hence the more security line, he repeats several times.
Worf and Riker show up. Worf is barely able to bring the guy down, and finally gets him into a holding cell.
Yes, Worf is demonstrating that he's actually fairly strong and a badass here, because he's able to take down this super badass guy that showed up.
Yeah, we also have this fairly normal-looking human dude who's as strong as a Klingon.
Mm-hmm.
Though what's interesting is we have no idea how strong this species is supposed to be, generally.
Yes.
Like, we kind of assume anybody without a prosthetic on is supposed to be about equivalent strength to a human, but we don't have any particular way to know that.
Yes. The Klingons generally pretty strong. Vulcans, they got ear prosthetics, so they count, and they're very, very strong. And but random human-looking guy, who knows?
The Prime Minister tells them that the facility on the moon is pretty damaged and won't be repaired for several hours, so they'll just need to hold on to the guy for a while.
Well, this is going to get awkward. We have a prisoner. We're Starfleet, and guess we got to go look at him now.
Yeah. Gotta go talk to him or something.
Yeah.
They find that there is something weird about him, because even though he's in the room and they can look at him, the sensors still think there's nobody there.
Weird. It's like some sort of suppression system, or maybe a dampening field he's emitting here. Wait a moment. I have that fan theory I had expressed a while back about the sensors. So when they pick up life forms, they're actually picking up our psychic connection with subspace that we develop when we achieve intelligence and all that. And so either he has some way to block that bleeding over to another dimension, or he's actually remote controlled.
Okay, sure. I don't even know what to do with that, honestly. Just
Although they actually in the episode talk a little bit about chemicals and stuff in this.
Chemicals,
system.
heart rate, something that makes the sensors scatter.
Mm-hmm.
Does also your fan theory doesn't make sense because they can pick up non-sentient life forms.
True, but I'm gonna pretend that's not the case.
So
Alternatively, plants are very intelligent.
I mean, we just don't know.
Yes.
So we switch over to Troy, who's just having a nice day, wandering down the hallway. Then Roga starts having a nightmare, and she gets just a blast of it in the hallway while she's walking by.
Someone's having a bad day. Disturbance in the Force calls me to action.
So she comes in to talk to him. He's dismissive and hostile. The idea of counselors in general seems to bother him. Troy's just here because she felt pain while he was sleeping, but now he's fine and calm.
Well, I guess my work here is done.
Yeah, good job. Later, she tries to tell Picard that there's something weird going on, because she doesn't sense that Roga is a killer. Like, he has killed, and he's done all of these terrible things that they accuse him of, but personality-wise, he's not violent.
So, you say, like, he's a soldier, though, right?
And, yeah.
So maybe that's his job?
Yes, his job is violence.
Yes, and maybe someone who has such a job is going to have some sort of, I don't know, natural result of that sort of training to be able to use those skills in situations beyond what they're originally trained for, even if they feel bad about it.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead.
Yes. I'm just saying, just in general. Yeah.
Picard's sort of done with him, though. He's like, I don't like this guy. He beat up somebody. Go away.
People are beating up my officers. That happens too much around here. I need that to stop.
So Troy doesn't want to give up, though, and gets Data to look up Roga's police record. There isn't one.
Whoops.
He used to be a soldier. He had an honorable tour of duty, and then, as far as they can tell, was then sent to prison for no reason.
I see. So there was no trial. He just, you're in prison now. Congratulations. Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a little fishy here. This is some very non-Federation sort of behavior, guys.
So Troy goes back to Roga. She wants to know why they put him in prison. He said it's just because he was a soldier. And I did everything I asked. I learned to kill, like in a war, and then I was trained by someone who called themselves a counselor. She was, oh, gasp.
Well, this is a blotch on my profession. I need to do something about this. I'm going to petition the psychiatrist board about this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do enjoy that they could have had her be like all irate about this. Like, no, that person wasn't a counselor. That's a bad name, etc., etc. She just goes, oh, shit. Evil counselor.
Yes. I didn't know my profession could be evil.
I mean, anybody who's good at this knows their profession can be evil.
Yes.
Troy calls a meeting. Roga was an idealist who volunteered for the military to defend his way of life. Didn't know that volunteering was an irreversible process of augmentation and mental programming that would make him the perfect soldier but prevent him from ever rejoining society.
So he's an augment then. Isn't that banned by the Federation?
I mean, yeah. But, you know, they're not going to deal with that. So sometimes, maybe.
Depending on who's doing it and why, I guess.
Yeah. So Data comes to talk to Roga this time. He's confused about the human programming because, you know, his programming can be reprogrammed. Roga says that his training and his feelings and his sense of self are all kind of mixed up in there. So when you have all of that together, how are you supposed to separate programming from man? He must be unfixable because the people did this to him said that they would fix him if they could, and they haven't.
Or alternatively, they're evil counselors and thus will refuse.
Yeah. I just love this because it's still, like, as much as he obviously hates his situation and is willing to do anything to get out of it, he still has enough faith in the general society that he wanted to serve that he's like, you know, if they could fix me, they would have by now.
Yeah, he trusts the system sufficiently in order to view that, yeah.
Which is a very particular way that we train people to think about themselves. You know, there must be something irrevocably wrong with you because if there wasn't, someone would have done something about it.
Have they tried?
Shush.
We're not going to talk about that. Anyway.
We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. So Picard wants answers. And the Prime Minister does not.
Yeah.
He doesn't think they did anything wrong. They gave these people a moon colony, an entire moon colony. They have a good quality of life. They need security because Roga and some agitators decided they wanted to leave, and they shouldn't do that. But why would they be upset? It's a really nice prison. And also, this is none of your concern. Go away.
National security here and internal security, and I don't like your face either, Picard.
Yeah. So Roga has some more talks with Data because he's impressed that Data anticipated his escape, and he's jealous that Data has no feelings.
So very Vulcan of you.
Picard shows up to let Roga know that they are going to return him to prison. He doesn't like it, but he doesn't really have any choice. But he will help if he finds an opportunity.
Oh, that's reasonable. Hopefully we get one.
Roga appreciates that and then warns him that he still has to do anything in his power to try to escape.
It's like, yeah, they might talk it up, but the lunch period at the colony, they're always serving meatloaf. It just sucks.
They plan the prisoner transfer down to the microsecond. They lower the force field and then begin to transport Roga, who shoves his way out of the transporter containment field.
Which is rather impressive, because it's sort of, I guess, the implication that when you're being transported, you're kind of, you're aware, but you're maybe not able to move around very much. But he's just like, I'm just going to stick my hand out and twist this way and dance my way to the side, and this is going to cause a disruption to the transporter beam, and everything's going to explode and possibly kill me. So,
Yeah. Well, they obviously, it makes sense. They have some sort of like thing to keep you from falling out of the beam halfway.
Yes. But he's like, I don't care.
Also, we do get a little bit of the, no, wait, you'll die. So we understand that this is dangerous.
Yes.
So they lock down the deck. They put force fields up. They send security out. They keep turbo lifts online so that they can track him if he uses an elevator. This works, and they redirect the lift to where Worf is standing, but all that's inside of the turbo lift is an overloading phaser.
And I will give this particular moment a kudos for like the tension, because like this thing's is like doing the rising tone there and intensity, and Worf's like, seal off this deck, and the guy with him's like, I'm gonna go hide around the corner, and Worf's like, I'm gonna be a badass, I'm gonna waltz right up to this IED effectively and get it fixed, and everything's gonna be good.
Yeah, I need to turn off this entire bomb.
Yes. And there we go. All right.
No.
Moving on. Like, that was awesome, Worf. I know.
So they deal with the phaser. He then comes out, Roga comes out and knocks out a guard, lowers a force field, and gets to a Jeffries tube. I'm not sure why they let the force field lowering work like that.
Yeah.
He knocks out a guard, uses the guy's communicator to go, lower this force field. And then they do. And then they're like, he got through the force field. And then everybody goes, how did he do that? It's like, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah,
He asked for the force field to get dropped, and then they did that.
Yes.
I don't really know why that's the way your force fields work. That you just, it's just like, hey, yeah, we got it from like an internal communicator, so that seems fine. That's legit, right?
Yeah, and apparently the person whose communicator it belongs to used their communicator because that's what it registered. Never mind, they was unconscious at the time.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of those things that perhaps there's like when they do a review of the security situations, like, yeah, maybe not let this here unless you like give a password or something like that.
Yeah, maybe we should not do that. Maybe we should have more voice recognition. I don't know.
Yeah.
So he gets into engineering, knocks out everyone, gets power back onto the shuttle bay. They're like, oh my god, he's going to the shuttle bay. And then Data goes, nope, every time he's done something, it's been a distraction. So he's probably not going to the shuttle bay.
Yeah, so let's look for anything else he might be up to.
Though at this point, because he talked to Data and went, I noticed that every time you did anything, it was a misdirection, he might be going to the shuttle bay.
Double secret bluff.
Maybe he knows that you know that they know.
Yeah. So maybe we should just cover all our bases?
Yeah, you could do that. Seems like they don't very often.
Yes.
They finally do track him to one of the cargo bays. They flood it with gas to knock him out, but he grabs a pressure suit. The security team finds nothing. Pressure suit is gone, and they go like, oh, maybe he's trying to get out of the ship and get to the shuttle bays from the outside, which actually, cool plan.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be kind of neat to like have someone trying to scale the outside of the Enterprise D, because we don't really ever see something like that.
Yeah. So Worf does the whole, I'm leaving, I'm walking away now.
Clunk, clunk, clunk,
totally
clunk, clunk.
going down the hallway. Bye. I've left.
It's useful that he has a whole security team with him that, you could hear their footsteps going away. So
Yeah. Also, the doors in this thing are like ear-splittingly loud, like OSHA violation loud. So Roga gets out of his hiding spot to find Worf with the phaser on him. He's like, ha! I tricked you.
Surprise!
You've been Worfed.
Yeah. Let's kung fu fight.
Roga had a phaser stashed in the Jeffries tubes that turns out was on the light switch. So when it blows up, it turns off the power to be mildly dark.
Yes, but it's distracting enough for Worf, I guess.
Yeah, it distracts Worf long enough for Roga to fight him with the power of large cardboard boxes.
Yes.
I mean, at least one of them is definitely styrofoam. So
yes. But this is, large objects in a cargo bay. It's Worf's weakness.
Yeah, this always happens. If Klingons have one weakness, it's boxes. So he uses a phaser to turn a transporter back on, and then transports himself to the prison ship that was going to transfer him back to the moon.
Well, I guess he's going back to the moon then.
Yeah. Opens the door with the two guards. Goes, "Hi, guys."
Oh, we don't have guns. Whoops.
The Prime Minister is not pleased. They don't have the manpower to deal with this. Rogue and the other soldiers are heading to the capital. Picard decides that he's going to beam down himself with Data and Worf and Troy to deal with this situation.
So there might be some sort of violent uprising going on, and you're beaming yourself down into it, Captain. Riker, you should maybe, stop him?
Yeah, well, Riker does go, "This seems like a bad idea." And Picard goes, "Hush. I know what I'm doing.
Don't worry, everything will be fine.
Everything will be fine. Shush, shush, shush now." So the Prime Minister is upset because he thought they were going to bring, an army, and instead just, 4 lightly armed or unarmed people show up.
Yeah, don't you have 1,000 people on your ship up there? Bring them all down and get them all armed, and we'll, even the kids too, will be fun.
So soon Roga and several other soldiers arrive, and Picard goes, "Everybody drop your weapons." Because none of the soldiers want to kill people. They have only so far hurt anyone in self-defense.
Yeah, so, don't push that particular button, and you might survive this.
Huh. So Roga tries to incite them to attack, but Picard just full-on refuses. The Prime Minister tries to negotiate. He was like, if you all just peacefully go back to prison, I pinky swear that we'll think about talking to you later.
Yep. So, put your weapons down, line up, over here, and we'll start transporting you back. How about that?
Yeah. Roga goes, "Yeah, you can send us back to prison if you try hard enough."
Oh, there might be some complications to this plan, isn't there?
Yeah. So, this is when Picard goes, "You know what? I feel like you're right. This is a matter of internal security. Nothing to do with me. Bye."
Yep, you're not members of the Federation yet, so, I don't have to care about this situation. So good luck.
I got everything that I need to file my report about your membership, so have a good time.
Yeah, and, Roga's not on my ship anymore, so he's not my responsibility now.
Yeah. So, back on the ship, Picard sends a message that they will be happy to help rehabilitate the soldiers in any way they can, provided the government survives the night.
Yes. And, if they're still alive in the morning, we'll consider their application to the Federation here.
Yeah.
So, hopefully everything wins.
I love this, because this is such a good... They love this trick, but this is kind of a good redemption arc from we can't deal with drug dealers who have specifically asked for our help. Mm-hmm. This is, nothing to do with me. You clean up your own mess now.
Yep. You have maybe some social evolution to get sorted out here real quick, and the obvious way out is going to be difficult, but it is something that we trust you to be able to figure out here. It's just going to be a little bit of effort, and if you're willing to take it, we're willing to help. If not, you're going to have other problems.
Yeah. In this one, objectively the wrong side has decided to ask for help. Mm-hmm. Instead of the other one where they're like, "Hey, maybe you could help us not be addicted to drugs." And they are like, "Well, I don't know. We've decided to not help anybody." Which, as I've pointed out in that episode, it's not as bad as they say, because, it did deal with the situation, but they still could have, helped rehabilitate some people.
Yes. Could have been a nice, way to not only make more friends, but, help an entire people and show the Federation it really is the good guys, that they will answer the call to help to, get folks, standing on their own 2 feet here.
Yeah, it's not exactly interfering with a civilization's natural evolution when they say, "Hey, we're all addicted to drugs. Could you help provide some, relief or something?"
Yeah, we would like to not be addicted to drugs. That is the decision we are making as a society. And we just need a leg up in order to make this not ridiculously, pointlessly, painful and destructive for our people here.
Yeah, but instead, they're just like, "Nope, everyone's wrong. Go away."
I'm tired of dealing with you guys. Bye.
See, this one's better because the prime minister goes, hey, help us put these, like, dangerous criminals back in jail. And they are like, yeah, seems like you all should learn to clean up your own messes. Bye.
This is a problem of your own doing, and you have the means to get out of it. So
this looks like it's kind of your own fault.
Yes. So deal with it.
So maybe you should have to, rehabilitate your own soldiers.
Indeed. Which I guess that is kind of the big overarching theme in terms of this episode here. That people going off to war, it changes you, man, and all that. This way, in this episode, in a very specific and intentional way, but the allegory, of course, is also pretty obvious that war is going to be affecting people independent of what sort of intentions training is going to be providing. Because war is a stressful experience, and people that don't necessarily want to be killing each other, they're being thrown into situations where they do end up having to do such in order to survive and to also survive their superiors who are giving them orders.
I think what's kind of interesting is there's a lot of stuff that deals with war aftermath, and there's a lot, especially in the eras in which all of Star Trek was being written, really dealing with PTSD, or at least precursors to PTSD, because PTSD wasn't officially a diagnosis until 1980, but there were precursor ideas that people went to Vietnam and came back and were not okay.
They got the shell shock and things like that.
Yeah. Post-traumatic stress disorder was controversial, but the general idea was to say that the problem was an external factor, not an internal problem.
So you're saying that they were too close to that cannon when it went off, hence the shelling part of it.
Yeah, well, shell shock originally was from World War I, when prolonged trench warfare was causing major psychological problems, and the predominant idea at the time there was that possibly all of the shockwaves and explosions being nearby addled your brain in some way, like physically, an actual physical problem.
And so if it's a physical problem, it's a thing that can be dealt with in a physical manner, right?
Yeah, they never figured that one out.
No, because that's not how it works.
Yeah. Then later, both around the same time period and later, especially during World War II, we had the battle fatigue. There were a couple other similar ideas, which were essentially you as an individual aren't handling this as well as you should be able to, and that's your problem.
Blame the soldiers instead of, the situation you're throwing them in.
Yeah, which we had a lot of stuff with that. There's a pretty famous scene in the Patton movie where he gets mad that there's a soldier with psychological issues sharing the same hospital as people with real injuries.
Patton, you were kind of a jerk.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now, independent of the movie, you were also really a jerk in real life, too.
So after a while, and through some political action, there was eventually the recognition that this is not, in fact, an internal psychological problem, but a thing of external factors, of having had a lot of terrible things happen to you in very stressful situations that is going to affect your ability to function.
We'll start thinking about maybe helping you figure this out at some point here, but we're going to stare at you for a few more years.
Yeah. And we never figured out a great way to deal with it. There's a lot of the tests that have been done. Let's see. I believe that some forms of exposure therapy and similar things have been tried that show some amount of measured success, but they have an incredibly high dropout rate. Some of the tests aren't done particularly well. It's really difficult to test psychological stuff in a good way because it's impossible and unethical to do a double-blind trial on something like that. So you're just doing general overall improvement studies, which have correlation problems, and also everything is very subjective. They're trying to make objective tests for these sort of things, but it's all like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how good do you feel today? You know.
It's like, well, if we want to do a more rigorous study, I guess we have to horribly torture someone first. That's not ethical.
Yeah. So you've got some problems with how to study this stuff, but they have been working on new ideas. They're trying to get something done with it at least. What I think is very interesting with this episode particularly is, well, yeah, it does have some PTSD allegories. It deals with the other part of the problem that we have with people re-entering society after a war, which is we have essentially trained a bunch of people to be unable to function in society as we have it set up, because you've been trained to deal with a stressful situation in which deadly force is a pretty normal thing to have to apply to the stressful situation. You are in a very different mode of thinking with clear command structures, etc., things in that vein.
A regimental life with that as sort of the fallback for all the stressful things you're encountering here, and so you can rely on that to hopefully get you through it.
Yeah, so you come back to a normal life situation, and suddenly you're expected to go from, we have trained you to literally kill people, to, okay, now you're just supposed to go, I guess, work at Target or something.
Yes, and maybe an office job, or maybe work at a car wash, and sort of just mundane things here. But there's not a whole lot of running for your life, dodging things that are coming at you, looking for people to shoot, and then proceeding to shoot them.
Yeah. So yeah, we're like training people to operate in a very specific, very stressful, but also very strange, novel environment that does not come up much in normal day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. And it is then always counted as somewhat of a surprise when someone who has been trained to operate in that environment for so long has trouble operating in another environment that they actually didn't have any training for, were in fact trained away from to be able to operate in that original environment. And we haven't really, as a society, ever done much to retrain people.
Yeah, I think the closest thing is stuff like the GI Bill to get folks into college and things like that. Sort of a transitionary period where you are, not entering the full society, but sort of a semi-regimental version of it, where you are now, engaging in a learning process, and there is set schedules that are sort of you're being adhered to, so it's not the full on command structure you had previously, but it's sort of a somewhere in between that and the real world, where you can kind of do what you want in terms of motivations and all that.
Yeah, and even something like that has fairly good intentions is turned into more of a bribe situation.
Yeah.
to try to incentivize volunteering.
Yeah, so it's more of a coincidental. This has some good effects on it, but it's not the main focus for it.
Yeah, the more expensive schools become, the more incentivized you are to do something that will pay for your schooling, even if it is putting yourself in grave danger.
So, that whole dynamic sucks.
So what's interesting, this is a bit more akin. It's still not exactly the same, but it has some other allegories to something that they weren't even talking about at the time, because this episode came out in 1990, which for historical context would have been right around the end of the first Gulf War, before the start of the second Gulf War.
Oh, the first Gulf War, I thought that was 91?
No, that was the second Gulf War.
Ah.
I was just looking this up.
You mean the Iran-Iraq War?
Yeah, the Iran-Iraq War, which apparently is also known as the First Gulf War. Yeah. I know. I was confused too, but I was literally just looking at this, which, if you want to have a depressing time, go on Wikipedia and look up the Wars America has been involved with section.
Yes, it's lengthy.
Yeah.
But Iran-Iraq War, The U.S. is like, we don't much care for Iran here, and we're going to support this Saddam Hussein guy in Iraq because he doesn't like Iran too, and they're going to go and shoot at each other for a while.
Yeah, so we didn't have quite as much American war timing going on at this time period, and we hadn't yet started talking about something that's been getting a bit more of a spotlight recently, largely because of the pandemic and healthcare workers, which is a concept that I've touched on briefly in another episode. I can't remember which, but it's a concept known as moral injury. So moral injury can be a little bit of a tough one to explain. It was originally a way for soldiers to start to explain the experiences that they were having in some of our weird quasi-undeclared wars. The first time I encountered it was a workshop that some people locally were running, where two people who were involved in the Iraq War had come back, and there was a documentary about them and the way that they were trying to understand and deal with this concept. But the general idea is that it is somewhat like PTSD. It is akin to PTSD in that it is something that happened because of unusual and traumatizing situations that you were involved in. But the distinguishing factor is that it has more to do with a break in your moral understanding of the world and society, more so than you having gone through a understandably stressful situation.
Yes.
So the reason that people are talking about it a lot recently with the pandemic is it is something that's being talked about for healthcare workers that had to work through COVID, where they were trying their absolute hardest to save as many people as possible, and through a lot of economic and governmental factors completely outside of their control, they were unable to do so.
Yes. Not enough support in some areas, and silly token things in other areas that were just kind of insulting, and you're just like, come on.
So they were forced into making life and death decisions in a way that they should never have had to for the jobs that they were meant to be doing. If they had gotten a proper amount of support and care, and we actually gave a damn about anything that was going on at the time, they would not have been forced into so many of those morally compromising positions. But because they were, there's sort of a fundamental breakdown in your view of the society around you as a moral entity and your place within it.
Yes.
See, there's another place that might be slightly easier to wrap your head around because it's a understandable situation that people might be able to think of. There's several places where this is being talked about in a similar vein that have to do with things like deadly car accidents. Because there was at least one case, I remember reading a book about the person's experiences, where the person was involved in a deadly car accident. A bicyclist possibly swerved into traffic and was struck by this person's car and died. And this person arguably did absolutely nothing wrong. They were completely in the right in the situation. They didn't break any traffic laws. They did nothing to cause this to happen. But they were still directly involved in the death of another person.
Naturally, the human response is to feel guilty about this, even though there is nothing you could have done to change things.
Yes, there is absolutely no way that you could have prevented this situation. You did nothing wrong. No one can tell you did anything wrong. Everyone, in fact, can tell you that you did everything right in this given situation. So we don't really have a good way to try to deal with that or account for it.
So how do you deal with that? Did you try to keep refuge in those logical arguments and ignore your feelings, or do you let your feelings out for a while and hope you can keep get them back under control once you sort of had a period of mourning over what happened, for lack of a better term, or is there something else that's a better way forward to deal with this? And there's not really a good answer at this point.
Yeah, we haven't really found a lot. There's some talk about some sort of like spiritual or quasi-spiritual ideas, because those seem to have had an impact at various times. There's some experimentation with psychedelic drugs that seem to be having some possibly promising applications for, various kinds of psychological trauma, including this. The experiments are very early on, and they're of course still, Schedule 1 narcotics, so it's difficult to do experiments with them.
Yeah, gotta get all the right approval.
There are some potentially promising results, but it's just not something that we as a society are set up to encounter.
Mm-hmm. And it's maybe something that we should, as a society, work on and, actually be cognizant of in terms of, putting good resources forward to sort of help with this sort of thing. Because, it's not necessarily going to be a one-off with a person in a car dealing with someone swerving in front of them like that. It could be the next pandemic, or it could be some other major disaster that ends up causing a lot of death and destruction, and a lot of situations where people are going to be facing that directly. And being well prepared for that now will make getting through all of that easier for everybody, and I think that'll be a good thing.
Yeah, well, we are trying to deal with it more. We just don't have a good way to work on it. We still don't like the general idea of people being harmed by society being shitty as a concept, because we might have to acknowledge that society is kind of shitty.
Oh no, society's not perfect. We can't admit that. Come on, because that means someone will lose an election, or somebody else will have to pay a fine, right?
Yeah. I mean, we handled everything well during the pandemic, and we're trying to pretend that the whole thing didn't happen right now, so.
Kind of. It's I guess to a certain degree, it's sort of like early on in the pandemic, it's like all these businesses are like, yes, this is going to be bad for the economy, and we want people to go back to work, because that's more important for the well-being of everybody. And then they realized they're getting called out, and then they stopped talking about it, but still kept making moves to have that be the case.
Yeah, they kind of arguably still did it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that sucks. Maybe we should improve society somewhat.
But you live in that society.
Whatever. I guess in terms of other things attached to this episode, there is definitely some motivation for the writing of this episode about folks coming back from Vietnam specifically, and not necessarily being well treated by society generally. Suddenly it's like, all right, well, you got drafted and you went to war, and now you're back home, and we're not going to have any sort of support network for you in order to get that job, or be able to transition back to society in a cohesive and useful fashion. And so there's been years and years where one of the political footballs that just kept getting tossed around is we need to take better care of our veterans. And, things like the VA have occasionally gotten improved support when people actually decided to, motivate on that. But then a few years later, everything kind of falls apart again, and the initiatives kind of become meh. And you have yourself with a hospital with, a couple wings that are, full of mold, and one of them is not being used, but the other one is. And it's like, oh, yeah, this is all we got for a budget here. So, and that sucks. But then on the other side, sort of, I guess, distracting from this is anecdotal stories about, the society was mean to the soldiers coming back because someone somewhere maybe spat on someone, maybe. And there's not really any actual, proof that stuff like that happened. But it is one of those things that is kind of used to vent about that sort of dynamic without actually having a call for action to do anything to make things better. And so, once again, this is one of those situations where trust the data, not lore, and, let's actually do things that are actually effective instead of just bitching about things that didn't happen.
Yeah, there's been a general sort of overall story of, everyone was mad at the veterans from Vietnam because they blamed them for losing the war. We also have developed a very unfortunate individualist streak when it comes to anti-war sentiment, because we have a lot of supposedly liberal and progressive people who have anti-war feelings, blaming individual soldiers for the fact that they had to participate in a war instead of the general system in and of itself that made this a necessity.
So this is why if someone's ever trying to focus on the individuals and ignoring the system, they're not really helping at all, because, individuals can be good or bad, but systems are going to be what they are, and they are the things that we together as a society put together, maintain, and can change if we are motivated to. And we're not going to be motivated to if we're just blaming some random guy instead.
Well, there's this interesting thing that I saw, I forget where, but it was kind of an interesting concept that in a active war situation, everyone there is essentially a prisoner.
Yeah.
Because neither of the sides of individual people on the ground have any particular reason or want to be trying to kill each other, but if they leave, they're going to get killed by their own people.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said earlier, it's trying not to be killed by the enemy or their commanding officers, sort of stuff there. Because you're deserting. Well, that's a hanging or a shooting, or depending on what area, just being your head chopped off.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing here too is that this is, as far as we are presented, the storyline here is not analogous to Vietnam, which was an impressive quagmire that no one arguably needed to be involved in ever at all for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
They keep saying this was a war to defend your way of life. They're very vague on it. But as far as we are concerned, as far as we're led to believe, this was something where these people were defending themselves from a hostile aggressor that wanted to do bad things to them. And we have no particular reason to doubt that narrative. So even in something that was arguably a completely justifiable conflict from this side, they are still just ignoring the fact that they had to use some of their own citizenry as weapons and then decided to simply discard them afterward.
Though I will go ahead and say that there is still wiggle room that they could actually have been the aggressors in this one here, that defending their way of life can just be a euphemism of those guys over there are commies and we can't abide that.
I mean, yeah, it can be. But as far as we're led to believe by the story, this could have been a completely justifiable, as far as war things go, morally, defensible conflict from this side. And I think that's an interesting thing to look at, in that they can still be doing something terrible, even if the actions that they took were justifiable.
Indeed. It's one of those weird, this is both justifiable but immoral at the same time. So it's you as an individual can make a judgment of which one of those is more relevant for what is the correct way to go forward. But in terms of society, they're going to go with the justification side.
Well, I think that something that we kind of miss and don't talk about a lot of times, which is somewhat relevant, is there is a fundamental difference between justifiable and right.
Yes.
And we don't often draw that distinction. If you're in a violent self-defense situation and you had to harm or kill someone to save yourself and others, that's a justifiable thing to have happened, but it's arguably not a right thing to have happened.
Ideally, there would still be a way to get out of it without anyone getting hurt. But if you don't know what that way is, aka the right way, then you're still going to be stuck with the...
No, but there's not necessarily a way to get out of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of up to the other person in some of those situations. But if someone is attacking you with completely violent, hostile, deadly intent, and you have no other option but to harm or kill them to get out of the situation, that is a justifiable action, but it doesn't make it a correct or right action.
Yeah.
And we confuse those things. You even said, maybe there was a right way to handle it, but what if there was not? There often isn't necessarily.
Well, in my head, the quote right way to handle it is to put up a large wall between you and them that you just sum it up with your mind somehow, and that will keep them from harming you and everyone on your side of the wall. And that might sound impossible, but it is the right way to resolve the situation. I'm not saying it's a plausible way to do it, but it is, a way to resolve the situation that is, results in no harm to people. But that not being able to pull that off, just, pulling a giant wall out of your backside there, is kind of one of the reasons the correct way to, actually resolve the situation, given what you actually can do, is not that. So shall I talk about CBs and EU4?
Sure, whatever that happens to be.
Casus belli, it's justification for war. There's a number of them in the game. I'm only going to touch on this briefly, but it is, interesting how our perception of what is justifiable does change over time. At the beginning of the game, it's like, all right, so generally, if you're going to be, invading someone, and you actually going to get both your people and everyone else, that's not involved in the war to be okay with things, you need to have a claim on the territory. The claim can be fully valid, or it could just be something you managed to make up. It's like, oh yeah, someone that on our side, is supposed to own land over there, so we're going to take it for them, that sort of stuff there. Later in the game, you can get things like Holy War, where you're like, because they're a different faith, and our faith is the correct one, no matter what faith that is, we're going to use that as a justification to invade the people over there. Eventually you get imperialism and nationalism, and you can say, well, I'm going to invade these other German princes, the ones next to me, because I'm also a German prince, because we're all the same, culture, and we deserve to have our own nation united together, and it just happens I'm going to be in charge of that if I win. And of course, imperialism, our people deserve an empire that, is going to be beneficial to our people. And the best way to do that is to have lots of random colonies all over the world. And so we can extract as much, of their products as possible, so we can have a high standard of living. And that is now justifiable. And so each one of these is kind of bullshit. I'm going to go murder people for a, what I'm viewing as a justified reason, but, in terms of, is this morally right? That's very far from really what you got going on here at all. It is the excuse to go invade somebody, to take their stuff, to kill their people, and to, acquire their territory. And, justifications in terms of international politics can vary quite a bit. And that's why I was kind of like, yeah, there might be a different sort of view internally as far as this previous conflict was really about. The defending their way of life can be kind of attached to any sort of, side justification in terms of, what's going on. And, we don't see it in the text of the episode, but there is, in reality, going to be a lot of things you can sort of wiggle room your way in, and, right now there's the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And one of the justifications, in big quotation marks, that Russia has used to invade a sovereign country is like, yeah, there's totally a bunch of Russian nationals in this bit of land here, and we need to protect them from the people that are totally going to murder them all because we say so.
I think what's interesting in your thing there is the justification argument gets to the other half of it, which is justify it to whom?
Exactly.
Because a lot of the things you're saying are to justify it to your own population and to your possible allies.
And sometimes, third parties who may be willing to, support one side or the other for either their own interests or because you're paying them. If you're going to be buying weapons from somebody and you are going to be using those weapons against somebody that they, would nominally not want to be pissing off, if you provide them a sufficiently worthwhile justification for what you're doing, they might be like, well, all right, I guess we can get away with selling you these munitions here in order to, go with your conflict because you have a good enough reason for this to not seem like a bad move on our part.
Now, so when you say justify, you always have to look at that of, what's your who are you justifying it to? Why are you justifying it? The Russia example to look at, it's justification to themselves, their
Generally,
own
yes.
population. Pretty much everyone else is not buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's supporting them is doing so for purely political reasons, not because they believe the things that they're saying.
Yeah, it's Belarus is kind of on their side. Let some troops go through their territory for a while, and Belarus is like, all right, well, we'll nod along to this, but nobody really cares what we think most of the time because we're still a dictatorship in middle of modern day Europe. So we're here, and we know this is a BS excuse here, but we're going to be using that as internal justification for ourselves. And if anyone asks us, yeah, we just totally believe you, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. So if we happen to be wrong, then that's just your opinion, man. Dang, international politics sucks.
Yeah. And you have the same sort of thing, interestingly. Like, some people have kind of mentioned this off and on, that the people that, like, Russia has fighting for them right now, the conscripts, possible young volunteers, are probably going to be dealing with a similar thing when all this is over, because a lot of them know that they don't have an actual justification to be doing this.
Yes. And, someday some of these folks might be rising to power, and, the ones that, are fully in on Putin's program here in terms of, the justification, be it the one that's being used publicly or the actual one of, like, we actually just want to expand our influence and power, are going to be, generally supportive of more stuff like this in the future, while the rest are going to be like, really, do we have to really deal with this again and again until, in perpetuity, until we finally get leaders that don't suck?
I mean, probably.
Yeah. So, if you've managed to survive the war in Russia there, and you're now post conscripted land, and managed to survive and all that, go into politics and try to prevent this from ever happening again, Russia guys. Come on. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. So usually we say, "Oh, we got depressing at the end there," but no, this whole thing was depressing.
Yeah. Just different levels of depressing here and there, up and down, all over the place.
So it's probably time that we moved on and got to the Galaxy's favorite game show.
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome back to the Galaxy's favorite game show. Today we got 4 prizes to hand out because we have 4 prize winners who have just been getting so many points here. I'd say that they're winning. Anyway, the first one is the Worf effect, which goes to Worf, of course, though only barely, as he shows competence and badassness throughout the episode until he's finally defeated by his one true nemesis, containers in the cargo bay. What does he win, Gepwin?
Worf wins a hard hat. It would probably have helped him not be hit by all of those boxes in the cargo bay. And I know they have good medicine and stuff, but, like, those boxes fall over every time the ship jostles slightly. They should probably have better safety equipment in there.
Maybe a railing around them, or maybe clips so that they're secured to the shelves.
Nets.
Maybe just not have gravity in there generally, or look very
that's
low
true.
gravity.
Why doesn't gravity just turn off automatically when the ship is being jostled around too much?
Yes.
And then
so
turns on very slowly so that the boxes can float down safely.
Yes, and you don't get randomly crushed because of all that. So that would be a good thing to have here. So, Worf, get your hard hat, and the Enterprise, get the rest of this stuff going here. Anyway, the second prize is the Transporters Are Magic prize, which goes to Rogar Denar, who realized this and then used the power of the magic dance to redirect the beam. What does he win, Gepwin?
He wins a new, I forget what these are called, because I haven't seen one for a while. Those, infomercial style, workout video things. How to escape a tractor beam and have rock hard abs. I think this whole thing just looks like a hell of a straining workout video to me.
Sweating to the sounds of the Enterprise engines. Our third prize is the Picard Speech Prize, which goes naturally to Picard because he lays it all out to the locals. They've been kind of crap to their soldiers, and, maybe they should go with the route of wisdom here to get themselves out of the situation and, not killed and all that, over their previous folly. What do they win, Capwin?
Picard wins a pamphlet, just like, they should just be able to transport down here is why you are the morally dubious one in this situation. How to recognize if your government is doing something evil.
Yeah,
it would save them a lot of time.
Yeah, just send them out to lots of planets here, including maybe a few Federation members, and hopefully they make good use of them there. Our final prize today is the Fake Paradise Prison Prize, which goes to Prime Minister Nehruck, because if Luna 5 penal colony there is just so great, maybe you should go live there, Prime Minister. Shouldn't you? Go check it out and tell us how it is. Come on. What does he win, Gepwin?
They win the revolving door. Just install it on the prison without guards. Then they wouldn't necessarily want to leave because they could. Which is the one thing that's often missing from these, like, this is the best place you could possibly live, but it's a prison situations.
Alternatively, it ends up being the revolving door from the Royale. It just gets confusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I got here for today. Gepwin, feel free to take us away.
Yes, thank you all for being here and joining us today on the Galaxy's favorite game show!
Woo!
Next time, we also have a complicated, morally weird situation. This time, though, interestingly, it is supposed to be a, morally ambiguous situation. Who's right? Oh my god, can we justify something or other? But one half of the argument is cops.
Yes. So... that's a big minus on their side there. What do we got on the other side?
Terrorists.
Huh. Well, this is pre-9/11, so terrorism wasn't...
Interestingly. It's a very interesting one because, you can treat it with a lot more nuance than you would be able to do later.
Mm-hmm. It's like, wow, we can, look into their motivations, their dynamics, the back and forth of the cycle of violence and all that sort of stuff, as opposed to just saying terrorism bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually look at the situation instead of slapping a big label on it and just calling it good. Weird.
But, they don't, of course, do it super well because it's still, America in the 90s.
Yeah. They give it a try,
I'm going to have to look this up, which terrorists they would have been dealing with then. Was it 60s people? Was the first Trade Center bombing yet? I forget when that happened.
That was early 90s, but not quite yet. I think 93.
Okay, yeah, so we're not quite early enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, next time we get to talk about terrorism from pre-9/11 terrorism from a post-9/11's perspective. Ooh, that's going to be hard.
Tricky. Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Super Transporters away! You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you that is now no longer exists.